Hey, this is your host, Toshiba Davis. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a published author, and I like to call myself a cultivator of communication and insight initiator. Welcome to the From Stress to Rest podcast, where we will talk about various stressors in life that at some point we all have experienced, such as anxiety, fear, business failure, relationship challenges, but ultimately identify what peace is in the midst of those experiences and how to maintain peace with practical steps, with encouragement and insightfulness on living this thing called life. Welcome to From Stress to Rest. Hello. This is the very first podcast episode of From Stress to Rest. The topics that will be discussed in these episodes stem from my self published daily devotional of the same name, From Stress to Rest. I will share my experiences with whatever the topic may be and how I came to a place of rest and peace. And just a little bit about me, my belief in God through His Son Jesus Christ has helped me overcome and find peace and rest in the midst of those topics and experiences we'll be talking about. Then in the next episode, I will have a guest sharing of their experiences with the same topic. Each month will be a different topic, so please definitely stay tuned. Now, this first episode, we will talk about that lovely, stressful A word. Now, wait for it. I'm talking about anxiety. Yes, anxiety, worry, apprehension, uneasiness. You know, all the ways we can describe anxiety. Now, first, I want to start off with giving the definition I came across of anxiety. Now, this is the definition that I am reading from. It is from therapistaid.com, and it reads as this definition. Anxiety is a mental and physical reaction to perceived threats. In small doses, anxiety is helpful. It protects us from danger and focuses our attention on problems. But when anxiety is too severe or occurs too frequently, it can become debilitating. Again, that definition is from therapistaid.com. So, as that definition stated, yes, sometimes anxiety becomes debilitating, overwhelming, and I'm sure everyone listening has experienced some form of anxiety. So first, I want to talk about we've made it to 2021. Yes, we've made it to 2021. But let's talk about some things in 2020. As you know, up and down 2020, there were concerns and there were things that were going on that many people saw and viewed and experienced anxiety. So let's talk about it. COVID-19, obviously. COVID-19, and then there was the fear of catching it. There was the fear of family members, friend catching it. And then there was anxiety that can come from that because there's maybe people that you know that have lost someone from COVID-19. So I do want to be sensitive to that fact. So all of those experiences with COVID-19 can bring about anxiety. And then obviously survival concerns when it came to COVID-19. As far as with my own family, because of the quarantine, because of the shutdown, my brother was out of work for about 9 months. And so there were survivor concerns. I know many people who were worried about either A, losing their job, B, and then of course, finances, paying rent, things of that nature. So that too brings about anxiety that can become overwhelming. And then adding on to that, the election concerns. There's, people have different ideas, perceptions of the election, of who should win, this and that. So that was bringing on anxiety as well. So needless to say, again, 2020 up and down had anxiety or had concerns. Now, I know that may not be for everyone. There's people who experience some large up and downs in 2020, and there are some people who things were relatively well. So I just want to be mindful of that. But as long as we're talking about anxiety and know those big worldly anxieties, the big things that we just mentioned about, but then we have the day-to-day concerns that can bring on anxiety, whether it be friendship challenges, whether it be romantic relationship challenges that are bringing on anxiety or uncertainty. We have work, obviously, coworker personality challenges, employee challenges if you're an employer or entrepreneur, have your own business. If you have children, kids behaving challenges. And then, of course, this whole thing with distance learning was bringing about anxiety and concern. So needless to say, the list can go on and on and on when it comes to anxiety. What I want to do is just share a small little snippet from my daily devotional, From Stress to Rest. And the first daily devotional in the book, From Stress to Rest, the first one is anxiety. And so again, I'm just going to read a little small portion of what I put here in anxiety, just a little snippet. So I spoke about anxiety, and in this particular couple of sentences, I said, every day I was wondering if, when I saw this person, if I was going to be critiqued or criticized. Anxiety began to be my close friend. Now, at this point, I did not necessarily know anxiety was my close friend, not until I checked in with myself and wondered why I was holding my breath or why I was tense. And so, just a little bit of background about my experience with anxiety in this particular context of what I was writing about. I was working with an agency, and it doesn't feel good to be criticized. It doesn't feel good to be pointed out of things that you are maybe doing wrong or doing not perfectly. In this particular situation, I felt that I was constantly being criticized, constantly being pointed out, when I'm like, hey, I know that I am busting my behind to work hard. And so anxiety began to build because of the past experience that I was having. So when I spoke about that anxiety, I was speaking about, when I saw them, oh my gosh, am I going to start now have to be criticized in front of everybody? Oh, great. Is this person going to say something negative to me again? So I was starting to realize, when I spoke about in my body, I was realizing I'm tense, I'm holding my breath, my thoughts are thinking, I can't be comfortable in this space with that person. And so coming to a space of how to get to a place of rest, I first asked myself a couple questions. Why did I allow anxiety to fill me at this time? And some of the things I came across was, number one, not sure of myself. I was not sure of myself, meaning sometimes, again, when we are criticized a lot or pointed out, or negative things are pointed out, we begin to lose confidence in ourselves. And there's a difference between confidence and pride. But I'm speaking about not being sure of myself. I began to second guess myself a lot, not necessarily realizing that I was second guessing myself, but everything I'm like, oh, this is not enough. Oh, this is not enough. So feeling not enough, obviously, was bringing about anxiety. Also, another thing that I had to come to realization was comparison. Was I comparing myself to the other person, the other therapist, the other coworker, whatever the case may be? Because if we compare, we're not going to definitely be at rest and peace, because we're comparing, we're trying to quote unquote measure up, and that is going to bring about unnecessary anxiety, unnecessary feelings, when comparison is a no-no. The third one that I had come up with when I asked myself the question about why did I allow anxiety to fill me was wanting to avoid an uncomfortable situation. Let me say that again. I was wanting to avoid an uncomfortable situation. And what I mean by that is, when we recognize things that are uncomfortable, we continue to tell ourselves, oh my gosh, this is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. Then of course that thought is going to bring about that anxiety. So questions to ask ourselves is going to be important as far as identifying those places of rest and peace in the midst of those experiences, whatever those experiences may be. And so I do want to share a few practical steps to overcome anxiety in various situations. I know that there's different levels of anxiety. Obviously, that's real, but I still want to, even depending on the levels, there is still practical steps that we can implement when it comes to overcome anxiety and finding rest and peace. So when I talked about my belief and faith in Jesus Christ, that prayer, obviously, going to God in prayer. And because knowing God's word, that he has not given us a spirit of fear, and that God will never leave us nor forsake us. So number one, prayer, asking God to calm our spirits, remind us that He is with us in every and all situations, and that God knows everything that we are going through. Another one is meditation. Now, I know there's various forms of meditation and different ways to meditate. Again, as a Christian, I do believe meditation as far as focusing on scriptures, focusing on the Bible, focusing on the character of God, as far as what that meditation is. Again, I know there's different types of meditation. Some people, I have put on, just relaxing music and just sit and think about the goodness of God and His scriptures. As far as what meditation is, I love to walk. I love to go out to the park and just walk, be in the sunlight, be in the nature. Again, just getting outside of and then finding a place of rest and peace physically would be something I would encourage people to do. Something that I do share with my clients called thought stopping strategies. Now, a thought stopping strategy is, for example, if we're having anxiety or whatever the case may be, whatever thoughts we are having that are not feeding us peace, finding a thought stopping way. So again, example could be finding a positive word or phrase or scripture that you can tell yourself when you catch yourself thinking thoughts that are not of peace, rest, joy, whatever the case may be. So just to give you an example, some of my clients may do a thought stopping word or phrase such as, I will get through this, or things will be okay, or I know my worth, or I will be able to handle the situation, or God is with me, things of that nature. So those are thought stopping strategies to stop the thought, that rumination again of anxiety, negativity, whatever the case may be, stopping that cycle so we don't continue to go through that cycle. Another particular step that I share with my clients is identifying core beliefs. And what I mean by identifying core beliefs is identifying the negative core beliefs. For example, a negative core belief, here are a couple, could be not enough, not attractive enough, not smart enough, not lovable. Those are negative core beliefs. First, identify what that is about ourselves. Then we must counteract that negative core belief by sharing something that gives us reason to believe that, wait a second, that negative core belief can't be my life's pattern. For instance, if somebody feels they're not attractive enough, then I would ask them, well, wait a second, you've been in past relationships, so obviously somebody thinks you're attractive. You told me that somebody gave you a compliment the other day. So looking at experiences in our life that counteract that negative core belief. Another negative core belief could be like, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm not smart enough. Okay, you feel you're not smart enough, but you told me when you were in school, your grades were pretty much A's and B's, or you passed almost magna cum laude, or you were at work. It could have been at work, and how you were giving praise or you were recognized for your good work that you produced. So again, identifying those negative core beliefs about ourselves and challenging it with experiences that show that, wait a second, that negative core belief cannot be the pattern that I choose to live by. Hopefully that makes sense. Also, the next one, number 4, I believe, challenging those negative core beliefs. And what I mean by challenging is, say that you have a core belief or you have some type of negative thought. You have a negative thought about anxiety or things of that nature. So challenge it. So say your negative thought may be something with anxiety. Challenge it, meaning, so what if it happens? So what if the thing that I'm fearing, it does happen? Okay, what am I going to do after that? Meaning there's going to be steps that you're going to do to still keep moving forward. If you have anxiety about, say you have anxiety about speaking in front of people, that's a huge anxiety. Okay, what is your worst fear? Okay, say you do mess up. Okay, or say somebody does snicker or laugh. Okay, what are you going to do after that? So say you do mess up, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to cover it up? Or are you going to be like, oh, you know what? I messed up. Let me show my authentic self and say, hey, I messed up. But you know what? This is what I actually meant to say. Or say if somebody does laugh at you, okay, are you going to just stop your speech? Or are you going to glare at that person? Or are you just going to say, hey, I'm going to keep going? So challenging that feeling of anxiety with the what ifs and what are you going to do after that. Another thing that I like to share with my clients and encourage them to do is speaking affirmations. This is kind of going with thought stopping strategies. Affirmations, I believe words are powerful. And I feel that the more that if we speak positive about ourselves, the more that we will hear that and the more that we will start believing it. Because as you know, when it comes to anxiety and going back to what my example was, when we always hear negative things about ourselves, it breaks us down. It can affect us. But if we speak out loud the positive things about ourselves, eventually we're going to start believing that thing about ourselves. So just an example, again, this is just an example of affirmation. Even though I'm feeling uncomfortable or anxious, I can handle the outcome. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Even though I'm feeling uncomfortable or anxious, I can handle the outcome. And that too is something I want to share, that in those uncomfortable situations or those situations that make us feel anxiety, remembering we can handle the outcome. We get caught up in thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to handle the outcome. I'm not going to be able to handle that person's response, but we can. But we have to find that within ourselves to be able to recognize who we are and that we can handle the outcome. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And again, those of you who, again, are Christians and have that belief in faith, knowing that God will never leave us nor forsake us and that He is always with us and that He is our help in those times of anxiety, whether it be speaking in front of somebody, whether it be somebody criticizing us, whether it be someone who doesn't like us for some strange reason, being it that we don't know where our next income is. We've got to remember that we are a child of God and that He sees and knows exactly what we're going through. Now, again, those were just a few tips that I wanted to share as far as practical ways of overcoming anxiety. So I definitely pray that those tips have been helpful for you. And as we get ready to close, I am just going to read this prayer to you that I put in my book, From Stress to Rest, a daily devotional. And it starts with, today I walk in peace and not worry. God, you are in the midst. You love me and will never leave me nor forsake me. There is nothing too hard for you. I place before you all of my anxieties of my heart. All is well with my soul. All right, listeners, whatever you do today, whatever you look for today, make sure you look for that rest and that peace. Make sure you think on rest and peace. So in all that you do and with all who you encounter, may it be in rest and peace. Thank you for joining me today on the first episode of From Stress to Rest.